Okay, I think we're going to get going now. I'd like to welcome everyone to Artist Sunday's virtual press conference. My name is Scott Westcott, and I'm with Turn 2 Communications, and I'm going to be moderating today's call. So today we want to highlight Artist Sunday's effort to create a Black Friday for the arts on Sunday, November 29th, which is just 11 days away. But we also think it's vitally important to share a range of perspectives about what artists, the arts community, and the arts and culture economy is up against amid the COVID-19 crisis. So to that end, in addition to hearing from Artist Sunday founder Christopher Sherman, you also get a variety of insights from the arts world, including an expert on the creative economy and how it's been impacted by COVID-19, a working artist and gallery manager, and an Artist Sunday participant from Fort Worth, Texas. Two leaders of organizations on both coasts who are helping artists navigate amid COVID-19, and the perspective from the American Craft Council on how those who make and sell crafts and handmade goods are managing through the crisis. So just a few quick notes before we begin. Everyone will be on mute while our speakers share their remarks. At the conclusion of those remarks, we'll open up for any questions, and you can send your questions via chat or raise your hand and we can unmute you. We will have a video recording available after the call concludes, and also a one-pager available with some key facts and statistics that you're going to hear today. So now I'd like to introduce our first speaker is Christopher Sherman, and he's the founder of Artist Sunday. Christopher is a professional photographer and a longtime entrepreneur. With Artist Sunday, he's blended those two passions as a way to help artists by creating a high-profile, high-visibility platform to help them promote and sell their work both locally and across the country. Christopher?
Hi, thank you, Peter. Scott, sorry. So I appreciate you all joining us. I'll give you some background for those of you who don't know anything about Artist Sunday. The concept came to me as about a year ago, actually. So the Sunday after Thanksgiving 2019, I saw a bump in sales in my photography. I'm a professional photographer, landscape photographer, fine arts photographer. And we basically brought it forth here over the last 12 months. And the idea is to create a national shopping day or international shopping day at some point focused exclusively on art. So you can think of it as a Black Friday, Small Business Saturday. You've got nothing on Sunday, at least not before this year. And then you've got Cyber Monday. So the idea is to use that Sunday and promote the arts, promote the sale of the arts for artists nationwide. And the idea is to hopefully increase sales for artists. We provide essentially a turnkey toolkit that allows them to promote themselves. We provide them some additional tools with regards to how to run events or how to do various online elements to improve their online sales. It's a free service to artists. It's also a free service to communities. We have over 360 communities nationwide. Primarily, these are cities, counties, some states, as well as chambers of commerce that are also participating. They all also participate for free. And then we also have about 2,600 individual artists. And the idea is to counterbalance what you're seeing with Black Friday and the big box stores that are, shouting deals, doorbusters, buy from us, to unite essentially artists nationwide under the same brand and unify the messaging to say, buy from an artist, buy from your local artist. So that's the short version. Obviously, we're in the middle of a pandemic that we didn't take into consideration when we launched the program. We've tried to embrace it and adapt to it. Over the last 12 months, or at least since March, the Americans for the Arts estimates that the coronavirus has had a $14 billion, that's with a B, $14 billion economic impact on arts and culture in the United States. And we're going to hear a little bit more from our other speakers on, just what does that mean beyond the numbers. So I'll hand it back to Scott and we'll take it from there.
Great, thank you, Christopher. So next up, we have Michael Seaman. Michael is an assistant professor of arts management at Colorado State University's LEAP Institute for the Arts. And Michael is going to discuss some of the key findings of a Brookings Institution study that he co-authored entitled Lost Art, Measuring COVID-19's Devastating Impact on America's Creative Economy. Michael?
Thank you, Scott. Yes, I unfortunately don't have any good news, but the idea of Artist Sunday is great news. So Richard Florida and I collaborated to look at how badly did the COVID-19 crisis affect the entire creative economy of the United States. And between April and July in 2020, we estimated that close to 2.7 million jobs were lost. 157 billion in total sales and revenues were gone. To put that in perspective, that's about 31% of all jobs in the creative economy and about 9% of annual sales. Now, particularly important to artists and Artist Sunday is the cluster we looked at that we called fine and performing arts. And this would include painters, sculptors, dancers, musicians, anybody that's working in textiles, very much craft oriented. In that case, that was really the hardest cluster that was hit. We estimate about 50% of all jobs lost of the 2.7 million were in the fine and performing arts. And it also represented about 27% of all the sales of goods and revenue. So it's a dire situation. And unfortunately for many, it's still a crisis that's unfolding. There are some things to keep in mind. Many people in the creative economy, and especially in the fine and performing arts, have multiple jobs. And it is quite possible that they have lost all of them. And also you have to remember the creative economy is trickles throughout the entire economy. So you may have people that are in the fine and performing arts that are actually working in an entirely different industry that could also be a job that was threatened or lost. There's so many people that work in the fine and performing arts as well as food and beverage and retail. They could have easily lost all their employment. And that is not, sadly, an uncommon thing in this situation. One other thing too that makes the situation in crafts and arts and the fine arts, performing arts, is how closely it's aligned with other industries, especially tourism. Tourism was crushed during the pandemic. There are a lot of the fine and performing arts that are directly intertwined with tourism. And with both of those being hit as hard as they are, it's again, a dire situation. So I'm looking forward to Artist Sunday because I think it's a great way that, in lieu of at the time we're in a situation where there's not a federal stimulus package coming within a reasonable time frame. So I think in some ways, I'm happy to be a part of the people that can stimulate the arts through my own pocketbook.
Great. Thank you very much, Michael. So next up, we have Ariel Davis. Ariel is a working artist and a gallery manager, and she was one of the first artists to join the Artist Sunday movement. And she is in Fort Worth, Texas, where she's going to share some of her frontline perspective on what's going on with artists in her community.
There we go. Yeah, so like Michael said, I'm one of the many artists that wear many hats. I'm a professional artist, but I also manage a gallery, and I also am I'm the director of the board for a nonprofit here in Fort Worth called Arttooth that strives to raise awareness of and kind of bring up emerging artists that are in the area. I guess COVID-19 has basically devastated what we had kind of going here in Fort Worth. And I like to think that we're really strong and tight-knit community and that we'll be able to get through this together. But, our Arttooth shows, almost all of our events have been canceled. As far as the gallery here, we have done some openings, but we've moved almost everything that we've been doing online. We are welcoming people to the gallery space, but you have to make an appointment to come. And we just don't have as many people coming through the door as we did. I first found out about Artist Sunday through the Arts Council here in Fort Worth. They sent out an email to their list asking if they had heard about it and asking for support. And I immediately was so excited to see it because I think that it's a great way to raise awareness of all the artists that really need help right now. I was looking up the Americans for the Arts dashboard on, that $14 billion number of losses, and specifically looking at Fort Worth, and it said that there were $5 million in losses in Fort Worth alone to our arts and creative industry. So it's a big deal. Here at Artspace 111, we are going to be participating in Artist Sunday, of course, online, but then also I will be here on the Sunday from noon to 4 for, we'll be opening up the gallery and having open hours for people that want to come through and see our 2 shows that we have up at this time. I know a lot of our artists are having a really hard time, those that are emerging or those that rely on markets, because they're just not happening. They are starting to pick back up, but I'm afraid that with the way things are going right now, that those will shut down again, unfortunately. And then I was also listening to Michael talking about tourism, and of course that has been that's really impacted what's been happening here in Fort Worth. A lot of our nonprofits, especially Art Tooth and other arts nonprofits have partnered with Visit Fort Worth, and they're just not able to support us as much as they once did because they just don't have the money coming in. We have a huge convention center here, and we were bringing in like 10 or 15,000 people every weekend, and those numbers are just not there anymore. So the taxes that go to support the arts are not there. And we also lost our Main Street Arts Festival this year that was completely canceled. That brings almost 500,000 people to Fort Worth just for that one weekend for that festival. So it's had a tremendous impact on us here.
Thanks, Ariel. Next up, we have Brian Rogers. Brian is the Executive Director of the Oregon Arts Commission, and the Arts Commission is one of 360 state, local arts, civic, and economic development organizations who are partnering with Artist Sunday in a wide variety of ways. And Brian's going to be talking about some of the challenges that artists in his state are facing and some of the efforts they have going on, and also his insights on Artist Sunday.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And just want to say that we are very excited to be part of Artist Sunday. And like many areas of the country, Oregon has a strong artist and artisan and maker community. And this program is very timely as artists are struggling to make their work visible. As Ariel talked about, all the typical festivals, studio tours, and exhibit venues for artists are closed or very, very limited access. Even in normal times, it is hard for artists to gain visibility. And Artist Sunday will be a wonderful platform for us to search and discover new artists and makers. And we have really been encouraging artists to participate in providing information about the program to the public. In Oregon, we are very supportive of artists and arts organizations and cultural institutions. And in partnership with the Oregon Community Foundation and the Miller Foundation, we set up a $1.2 million relief program for artists. Over 1,200 artists have applied to the program, and we're in the middle of adjudicating those applications now. Those artists that applied reported losses of over $21 million. So as you can see, our $1.2 million, while it will help, it won't really close the gap. So, I encourage people to visit Artist Sunday, and this will really help us learn, explore, and have a connection with artists, and hopefully support artists by purchasing works that make a very personal and meaningful gifts. I know I just did so the other day and will continue to do so. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. So we're going to head over to the East Coast now. Melody Capote. Melody is the executive director of the Caribbean Cultural Center African Diaspora Institute. And Melody is going to highlight her organization's tireless work supporting Harlem, New York artists amid the pandemic, and also offer some insights on how Artist Sunday offers a high visibility platform for some of those artists to promote and sell their work. Melody?
Thank you, Scott, and thank you everyone for who's tuning in. I feel like I'm representing the East Coast, I'm representing New York City, I'm representing Harlem, and I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to be part of this platform. Specifically, the center's work looks at the common thread we share as people of African descent. So our work over 44 years has really been to represent and work within communities that bring together folks from the Caribbean, Africa, African-American people celebrating our culture, celebrating our creative expressions. And so whether you're from Puerto Rico or Jamaica or Trinidad or South Carolina, the one thing we share is our common root culture, which is in Africa. We are located in Harlem, in East Harlem, in a renovated landmark firehouse on 125th Street between Lexington and Park Avenue. So anyone who knows New York City, 125th Street is the cultural thoroughfare, east to west, that represents probably all of the diaspora I just named. In what our communities of color have faced, I term as two pandemics, COVID-19 and the Black Lives Matter movement. And with the pandemic, we found a city that shut down on March 13th. Our building shut down on March 13th, and we've been unable to open since. And our immediate response to the shutdown of the city was that our artists were put out of work immediately. We have a very robust teaching artist program in the New York City public schools. Now there was no city public schools to which we could continue to provide the residencies. We found that artists, the rug was pulled from under the feet of most of the artists we work with. They were immediately unemployed, not only from our residency programs, but the gig economy that I think it was Michael referenced earlier, right? That, you know, you're really dependent, our artists are really dependent on the gig, whether you're a performing artist or an artist who's brought on to do a special visual arts presentation, a mural project, you know, any number of multidisciplinary approaches to how we express ourselves artistically. And so in addition, most of the artists we work with do have the side gig, which is working in the restaurant industry or being a bartender. All of this shut not only a city down, but individuals down from being able to generate any form of income or visibility. And so one of the ways we learned about the Artist Sunday program was through a partnership with the New York City Community Trust, or the New York Community Trust, who gave us an emergency grant to support a program we call named DEAR, D-E-A-R, which stands for Digital Evolution Artist Retention Program. A big base of our artists roster is composed of veteran, or what we call seasoned artists, who had a really tough time even thinking about what it would mean to shift from people service, right, with being in real time, to now moving onto a digital or virtual platform. And what the DEAR Project has done and is doing is training not only those artists, but all artists on how to kind of migrate from a physical space to what is now a digital space. And for most of us, if not all of us on this call, we understand just how difficult that is. How do you transfer visual arts from what is an experience that you're usually in front of to now a digital platform? And the same is true of performance art. We found ourselves now all competing with one another. Can you hear me? Because I hear that motor running.
We can hear you fine.
Okay, in a way that we are able to now continue to bring performances, live performances, to our audience, specifically what is now a broader audience, right? Because I think for many of us, we're reaching audiences we typically wouldn't be able to reach if it wasn't for the digital sphere, but also the loss of the quality of a lot of that artistic kind of richness because it is now on this other platform. And so it was through the community trust that we learned of the Artist Sunday program, which I feel is a real opportunity, a quick opportunity, a free opportunity for artists to be able to not only be visible, but to be able to show their work and sell their work. And I'm sorry, on the other side of the DIA project, I talked about digital training. We're also doing artist retention, which is really prepping our artists to hit the ground running when doors open, and we're able to kind of, I don't like to say come back to normal, because normal really wasn't such a good thing or such a good place for most communities of color, but at least allowing an opportunity as an artist to be as prepared as possible for when the doors open up. And coming back to Artist Sunday, using this platform as a way that artists are able to show their work, be visible, sell their work, and support themselves with what, and I applaud Chris for this work, for what is at no cost to the artist. So not only is this opportunity, this platform to do so, but there are tools that are also provided to the artists that just make making Artist Sunday happen so much easier, particularly for artists who may be challenged with what it means to kind of be on the virtual space. So that in a nutshell is our project. It's really our privilege and our honor to be a part of the Artist Sunday and the maiden voyage, because this is the first year that this is being done. And it is our hope that we'll help to grow it and support it for years to come.
Great, thank you so much. So last but not least, we have from Minnesota, Keona Tranby, and Keona is the Director of Marketing and Communications at the American Craft Council. And she's going to be sharing some of her thoughts on the unique challenges faced by craftspeople and artisans, many of whom largely relied on arts festivals and the fair circuit to generate sales of their items. Keona?
Thank you, Scott. As Scott just mentioned, I'm with the American Craft Council. We're a national nonprofit that champions craft and supports makers. We were actually in Atlanta for one of our 4 craft shows when the pandemic hit. We had artists, hundreds of artists from all over the country coming to our show, literally in their cars driving, when we had to announce that the show could no longer continue. And we just saw the look of devastation on everyone's faces as the artists realized that their livelihoods were going to be impacted, not just for that one show, but for the unforeseeable future. And I personally just took that as a driver to go back to Minnesota and figure out how the Crafts Council could help artists. And I think that Artist Sunday is really one of those wonderful opportunities that has arose to help support your local makers, your artists, and the creative economies that make America such a rich community. And I think that if we don't support our artists now, that those artists will have to find other means for their livelihoods, and those crafts and that enrichment of our lives may no longer be there when the pandemic ends. So I think that Artist Sunday is really a way to champion our importance for their contributing to not only economies, but to our lives. We started Craft Bash actually this Monday, which is our second online event at the American Craft Council. Craft Bash features over 100 artists, and it's a way to shop in a meaningful way for gifts during the season. And I think Artist Sunday is just another representation of why you should shop local, handmade artists versus Amazon, and where our support's really needed in our economy when sometimes our government isn't supporting those opportunities for those people.
Great, thank you. So that was a rundown on our speakers, and I think some really excellent insight from a wide different range of perspectives. We can now open it up. If anyone has any questions, we can open up the discussion, or you can send something via chat. We'll hold on for a few minutes here and see if there are any questions.
Scott, one has come in already, and it's why is it important for people to support the local arts community? Perhaps we can have Chris or others maybe chime in on that.
Sure. I mean, I think some of this has been covered a little bit, but obviously artists in the local community, in many cases, are either sole providers or just the smallest of small businesses. So by supporting artists in the local community, you're actually supporting not only an individual in many cases, as opposed to a company or a corporation, but also that community in general. The artists shop there, buy supplies there, pay taxes there. So it's definitely an opportunity not only to buy something personal for the holidays and something handcrafted, but also it's a win-win, I guess, for everybody, in that you're also supporting that local community.
And I would respond, imagine a world without art. Just imagine a world without art. And so the fact that we're living in these times, the fact that we're in lockdown, I mean, I guess some of us are finding our ways around and we're coming out to do certain kinds of errands and so on. But I mean, even missing the human touch, right? Being able to be with those people that you do want to hug and embrace and give a handshake to. Art does that for us, right? It touches the heart. And in our communities, in the most devastated communities, a mural, a painting, you know, and I don't want to sound, I'm not a visual artist anyway, I've studied dance, but, you know, just to see a flower growing in the crack of a concrete sidewalk, it just makes a difference in your life, right? The gray is no longer gray when you're looking at that flower coming up. So just imagine a world without art. And our artists going into hiding or going undercover and not being able to create.
Yeah, no, very, very well said and very true. Do we have any other questions?
Yes, we do. We've had a few have come in. One that's come in from Lynn Nelson is, are there some inspiring examples of that you've been seeing about how artists are pivoting in new directions?
You want me to take this?
Yeah, that would be great.
I've seen at least, you know, I can talk about it in a couple of different ways, but here in the gallery at Artspace 111, we've had a lot of our artists producing smaller works, so that, you know, people, I think a lot of people's budgets have shrunk, you know, in being able to purchase work. So a lot of our artists are focusing on creating smaller works that are more affordable, so that they can still make sales to kind of get them through this time. And, you know, we're obviously focusing on, we put a ton of time and attention on producing virtual tours through our gallery. So still filling the space with work, but then coming in and doing a virtual tour so that someone can come in and virtually walk through the space as if they were here, but also focusing on making sure that our database was really up to date, so that someone who is looking online is able to really see what's there. As far as artists go, I've seen here in Fort Worth an explosion of murals, which I think is a really amazing thing that's happening. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that a lot of us are spending more time outside, and murals, you know, a lot of time outside in kind of more in a pedestrian fashion, or just, you know, driving around in our cars even. But it kind of gives us something to do that doesn't involve coming into a space. So that's something that I've seen that's been really amazing. I think there's been an addition of maybe 20 plus murals, at least over the past 6 months.
Thanks, Ariel. Any other comments on that question? Brian?
Yeah, this is Brian here. We've seen a lot of performing artists, you know, provide online videos, etc. A lot of musicians and dancers. There's some great pieces, you know, of dancers outside. And then, visual artists, we've seen a lot of artist response. I'm sure you've all followed what's been going on in Portland in the national news in terms of the protests, and a lot of boarding up of downtown buildings has occurred, and a lot of temporary murals are being installed by artists, and they have a socially conscious kind of message that's coming across. So that's been one way that artists have been not only addressing this COVID situation, but society in a larger context. And that's been very impactful. And there's also been writing programs that a lot of people have had, hard times being isolated, and then Black Lives Matter movement and a lot of social issues going on that help people process what they're going through during these times. And then also, the triple whammy here in Oregon, there was a tremendous amount of wildfires that occurred, as well as in Washington and our friends down in California. And, the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, for example, which is in Southern Oregon, the fire ripped from Ashland up to Medford, and destroyed about 20 people. 20 people who work at Oregon Shakespeare Festival had lost their houses, and thousands of people were displaced. So artists have been responding to that as well. So, what an artist means in a community, I think was an earlier question, is not only the economic impact. Artists hire people to do things. They have kids they have to feed. They have spouses to care for in some cases. And also it provides a community a sense of being, a sense of place that, not only people in the community know and see things, but also visitors to that community see that artists are supported and promoted, is really, really important. So I think, as Michael mentioned, the arts and cultural industry in the country was the second hardest hit, right after accommodation, hotels, etc. So I think it's our civic responsibility to get behind supporting the bedrock of a lot of American culture.
Absolutely. Any other thoughts on that question?
Hello.
Go ahead.
I was just going to add, in Minneapolis, we obviously saw a huge movement as well in the Black Lives Matter with murals and beautiful art that was created and the community coming together through that time. At the Craft Council, we also saw a huge pivot to digital. They've been saying that we've advanced our digital in the 5 months since the pandemic, 5 years. And so artists are really rapidly pivoting to keep up with that change. We've implemented a Shopify site that allows artists that don't have a website to sell e-commerce through our platform. And we're trying to offer support for artists, but it's a very large challenge for them right now to learn digital marketing and photography and all the things involved to sell their work versus just being in person at a show. So I think it's really important to support them right now through these challenging times of that transition.
Excellent. Yeah. In one sense, it seems like artists have become second responders here, right? Right behind the first responders, hopefully trying to add to the healing and the awareness about what's going on. Peter, do we have any other questions?
Yep, we have some more that have come in. One is directed right for Chris. Chris, when you came up with the idea for Artist Sunday, did you have a goal in terms of the number of participants you thought might participate in this first year?
We didn't have any specific goals, especially after the pandemic hit. We started this in December and really kind of ramped things up in January and February. My goal really was to get several thousand artists and a couple of hundred communities involved. So the fact that we're on our way to 400 communities, with about 360 some right now, I think is a very positive sign. I mean, it's a negative sign that we've got a pandemic to deal with. I hope this, we can't erase that $14 billion loss but I hope that combined we could at least offset it slightly. So yeah, no numbers went out the window when the pandemic hit. In all reality, it was let's see if we could build something that that people will find value from.
Terrific. Another question related to the Artist Sunday movement itself. Obviously you hatched this before the pandemic, but it's certainly clouding everything this year. What's your long-term goal for this? What do you want to see Artist Sunday become?
I mean, that was very clear from the start. I mean, we want to be part of the lexicon around the holidays. We want it to be a new holiday tradition. So when you talk about that shopping weekend, and we're not abashed of saying that it's a shopping, initiative, but that it's Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, Artist Sunday, and Cyber Monday. So in one breath, we want to be part of that. We want artists to be part of that conversation. We want them to the awareness for artists to be raised at that time period. So I may not buy something I see on an artist website this holiday, but I may think, oh wow, my daughter's got a birthday coming up in February. I'll go back and maybe circle back around to that artist and commission a specific piece of work or buy something from their website. So it's more than just it's obviously sales, but it's more than sales. It's also recognition. We also have a bunch of ideas with regards to artist education, with regards to artist support. So there's a lot of opportunity to help artists and to help the communities that help artists, right? So if we can help those communities by providing additional services to them, again, these are art districts or chambers of commerce, then that's part of our objective as well. So we'll be reevaluating that at the end of this year and surveying all the participants and basically saying what would you like to see going forward? How was this year successful? How was it not? And take that all into consideration for 2021.
Terrific. Another question has come in. Are there ways to support artists beyond buying art and contributing to arts organizations? Is there advocacy work or anything being done at kind of the government level that people should be aware of?
I'm gonna see if we could maybe one of our speakers could address that. I'm not well versed on government.
I posted Arts in Action. Americans for the Arts has a action fund, Arts Vote, that they started this year. And I posted the link to that in the chat. That was one of the main initiatives I saw happening in the arts community for legislation.
Yeah, we at the Oregon Arts Commission, a statewide governmental agency, provide a lot of information and advocacy around artists and arts organizations, cultural institutions. In fact, through the coronavirus relief funding that came in the second wave of CARES funding, Oregon allocated more of its money to cultural organizations than any other state. $50 million was allocated to support cultural institutions, which then in turn support artists. And I think the next highest state was Massachusetts at around 21,000. So actually $26 million flowed through the Oregon Arts Commission and the Oregon Cultural Trust to support 621 organizations across the state. So without that kind of like advocacy work ongoing, you never can stop doing advocacy work and awareness, because there are a lot of perceptions that the arts are a nicety rather than a necessary part of everyday life, and how we value creative expression should be brought to the forefront at every chance we can have.
Yeah, we have something similar here in Fort Worth. I believe the artists, nonprofits, but also artists that have an LLC were able to apply for relief funding. So that was in place here, as well as Fine Line Group, which is the office of Ed and Sasha Bass here in Fort Worth, and also Alice Walton. They put together a couple of different grants that were available to artists. I think there were $150,000 for artists in Fort Worth, and then $100,000 for musicians as well. And so that money, so those were separate things, but the artists, there were 30 artists that were awarded grants. So that's an instance of, foundations and private companies, private, families coming together to support artists that are in the area, to really further their own, projects that are not necessarily meant to sell, for something to sell, but, to encourage growth within the arts during this time.
Great, thank you. Peter, anything else come in as far as questions?
We have a question that came in from an artist, and essentially he's looking for some advice for an artist who doesn't have a whole lot of experience selling online. What's some advice and what are some tools that you have available to help artists stand out and make sure that their work is seen and understood during Artist Sunday?
So very, very good question. And that's really kind of what we're all about. So the toolkit, if you haven't already signed up for the Artist Sunday service program, we provide a wide variety of templates. So it included would be a press release, social media, graphics. It's all about promoting your work and how to promote your work and get that word out there, leveraging social media, leveraging email lists, leveraging outreach to media. This time of year, we even have a gift guide that you can send out to media or to prospective clients. These are the things we're working on, or you as an artist are working on, gift recommendations. And we also encourage all of the artists that are participating to have some kind of promotion. I know it sounds silly. This time of year, consumers are driven by promotion, sales, doorbusters. They've been tuned into that Black Friday message for so long. The idea here is, let's counteract that. Have some kind of promotion that will drive consumers to your website, if not your studio or your gallery, if that's a possibility. It could be unveiling a special work. It could be a promotion on a specific type of work. Something, we don't want you to give it away, obviously, but we do want you to be able to have some kind of time frame specific promotion that lends a sense of urgency and engages customers. So those are just some ideas.
One thing that we did here at the gallery is that I think on that Sunday during those hours when people purchase work, we will be giving a portion of the sales to our local food bank. So it's not necessarily like something giving back to them, but it's, in essence, they're getting something, but they're also helping the community in a way.
Nice idea. Thank you.
Okay. Do not think we have any additional questions. And last call for questions. Anyone else?
I would like to point out something that I think is really brilliant about Artist Sunday, at least, using the website. And I don't think that it's been talked about, but when I went on to register and to use it and look through it, I just thought that it was brilliant that you could search Artist Sunday for specific cities, right? Which I think is what will make this site so successful. And it's something so simple, but it's really important, that people from all over the country can go on and search for artists that live in their community. So I just wanted to point that specific thing out.
Thank you. I mean, that actually, if you are in a local community and you don't know how to access artists, right? Traditionally you access artists by a street fair or some kind of physical event. How do you and where do you find them? That's part of what we're hoping to provide is register with us. All we do is we spin people out to artist websites, but it is searchable by type of art, by city, by state, and of course by artist name.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. It's an excellent point. Yeah, I think there's really excellent functionality on the website where you can search for that local artist, but also have access to, artists doing the type of work that you're interested in around the country. So first of all, I want to thank our panelists here on behalf of Artist Sunday. I think, again, it was so great to have everyone pulling together to share, work toward this common goal. And, supporting artists, obviously so essential right now. Want to thank the media who attended. We really appreciate it. As we mentioned at the top of the hour here, there's going to be a recording of this. So you can shoot me an email. It's there on the screen, scott@turn-2.co.com. So happy to get you that recording. Also have some of the data points that Michael Seaman shared, and also some Artist Sunday facts that we can share with you. And if you have additional questions, you can reach out to me if you'd like to set up interviews with participating artists or organizations in your community. Again, you can contact me and we can make sure that happens. So once again, thanks so much for everyone's participation, and shop Artist Sunday.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks all.